Hello, welcome. This is the Lorefield podcast, episode 2, working on the title. I'm Yzra, and I'm here with my co-star, Mitch.
Hello, Yzra. Good to be back here with the master of the Dwemer. I'm excited to talk about Starfield. It's been a good month. Surprising amount of news.
Yeah, really surprising how much information, well, it's quite a lot of theories, but yeah.
Yeah, I was happy with our first episode. We got some decent feedback, mainly about my microphone, and you can actually probably hear a bird in the background. But I got a better microphone thanks to your feedback. So thank you, everyone. Um, yeah, last last month's mic was unacceptable. That was my it was like a Turtle Beach headset. But back with a better one. And yeah, thank you for the feedback. I'd rather have feedback about, crappy audio or something than like your podcast is boring. So we're in good shape there. So if you don't have anything else to add, I think we can probably get straight into the news from the last month because like you said, there's been a pretty surprising amount. Even though there was no E3, you know, pretty good amount.
Oh yeah, it's surprising how, you know, even the smaller bits of information we dig apart.
So, firstly, I'll try to go in chronological order, but the chronology is established by my memory. So, if it's wrong, don't attack me, please. So, uh, in early July, about a week after our last episode went live, uh, Bethesda Game Studios updated their social media profile pictures with, the vault door icon that they've used for decades, but this time with the gravity waves. That's what we're going to call them, I think. The like topography lines that were in the trailer on that little display map thing. And I thought that was interesting because there's still a lot of debate over what those are. The best theory I've seen is the gravity waves, but they clearly are going to be very important to the game. Did you have any? What do you think about? What do you think they are?
I mean, it's really hard to say. Like, Bethesda have been like, they've always been quite tight-lipped. Hard to say, I'd say.
For sure. I lean toward topography lines at first. I was like, oh my gosh, of course, that's a map of a planet. Those little dots are locations. But the more I thought about it, the more I read what other people think, I lean more towards gravity waves, which is interesting because gravity was not confirmed as a wave until a couple of years ago, if I remember correctly. And this game has been worked on for a lot longer than a couple of years. So how that all fits together is kind of curious. But either way, those lines are going to be important. And they're on their profile picture now. So very interesting. There's better news this month, I promise. So after that, there was another Telegraph interview. Now this one, not it mostly focused on the Indiana Jones game, which is upcoming from Machine Games, I think. So there wasn't too much Starfield info in that. The most important bit, as it pertained to Starfield, was that the Creation Engine 2 upgrades will be both for Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, which I think was kind of obvious, but it was nice to hear Todd say it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, that's the big question. Everyone's jumping past Starfield. Like, the test fans are jumping past Starfield talk. And like, what are these engine upgrades? Are they? I think Todd said before they spent more time they wanted to on the engine upgrades, but they think it's going to be better for their future games. Which, didn't he also say they'd tweak the engine if Test 6 needed something a bit more?
I think he did, yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting time. It reminds me of 2017, I think, early 2018. Todd was on that AIAS Game Makers podcast, and he referred to engine upgrades they were doing, and he was specifically talking about the animation system. And he said it's going to be used in the project after the one we're working on now, which Fallout 76 was the one they were working on at the time. So quick maths, he was talking about Starfield. And it's kind of funny that we haven't heard anything about the animation system, only the Creation Engine 2, which are those the same thing? Like, I, yeah, is the animation, you know a bit more about development and stuff than I do. Could you go into a little bit about how an animation system ties into an engine?
Um, well, from what I've seen, like races. Well, I think I'm not sure about the animation engine per se, but I know a race can have animations tied to it, or creatures with with the whole race thing. They're all interconnected, so they're all races, but some are like NPCs you can talk to, and some are creatures. They're like farmer or insects, and they each have their own animation sets. Well, the 10 playable races have, they more or less share a skeleton, and that saves development. But for as animation, I'm not actually sure. I've heard that modders will be able to import their own. So if that's true, that'd be interesting to see.
Okay. I just wasn't sure how, like, if you make an animation in, say, Blender, if it is easy to move over to Creation Engine or vice versa. Even I just didn't know how those tools were compatible with each other, if that makes sense.
I think most modders reuse some animations that are already in the game, or they use that animation tool, uh, For's Player Idols, I think it is, and you can have some like wild animations with that.
Interesting. Okay. Well, it's cool that they're upgrading it. I feel like it's very not overdue, but it's the right time for those upgrades to happen. I remember in Fallout 4, whenever there was mocap, it stuck out like a sore thumb because the regular animations just did not look as fluid. The next news bit after the Creation Engine 2 talk in that Telegraph interview is that, well, I think after this, we got the news that Yzra was confirmed as the composer for Starfield, which is pretty big news. He shared it on his social media. A little bit about him. He also composed the soundtracks for Fallout, which everyone probably knew, the Dragon Age series, not Inquisition though, and the recently released Outriders. He does have some sci-fi experience as well. In the early 2000s, he did the soundtrack for 4 Star Trek games: Star Trek Klingon Academy, Star Trek New Worlds, Star Trek Starfleet Command 2 Empires at War, and Star Trek Starfleet Command Orion Pirates. Those last two have beefy titles. So it's good that he has sci-fi experience. I mean, I was a little bit skeptical. Like, I knew he'd done Fallout, I knew he'd done Dragon Age 2, and I was just worried, is he going to be able to pull out that epic, like awe-inspiring vibe that we all want in a big sci-fi game? And it doesn't get much bigger than Star Trek, so I'm inclined to believe that yes, he will be able to deliver. So it's exciting.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you've just listed. He's got the sci-fi experience. I think the soundtrack will be great.
Yeah, I love what we've already heard. And he also did, I forgot to mention, he also did Crisis, which is very far away from the same subset of sci-fi that we'll get in Starfield, but it's still sci-fi, so it counts. And I'll be honest, I'm probably setting myself up for angry people to come at me. But Fallout 4's soundtrack The theme was great. The like world exploration tracks and the combat music just didn't do it for me. It might have been the fact that you have the radio option, and I just always went with the radio. But when I didn't have the radio on and I was hearing the OST, it it just I don't know, it just didn't get me. So I'm hoping for a change from that in Starfield. And nothing against Mr. Zur. His, he's a great composer, and I love Fallout 3 soundtrack. But hopefully he'll come back to form for me a little, at least in Starfield. Um, yeah, that's just my personal opinion. He also did the Fallout 76 soundtrack, which is I thought it was really good. He did Steel Dawn. I think there was another expansion he did, Wastelanders. Did the soundtrack for both of those. And yeah, I thought those were better than 4. So yeah, good news. Now, I would also like to talk about this isn't really news, but I want to speculate with you a little bit. This cockpit etching thing in the trailer. I can't remember if we talked about it in the last show or if people only caught on after we recorded, but everyone thought it was a Test 6 tease. And it kind of looks like High Rock and Hammerfell if you like put a map of them into Photoshop and like twist them and distort them and like cut the land borders really weird. So I wasn't convinced. Before I get into the new theories about that, what were you thinking when that first came out, like in regards to Test 6? Did you kind of take that at face value, or were you skeptical? Like, because it is not a one-to-one match. It's not perfect at all. So I was curious what you thought.
It's like one of those things. So if you squint one eye and squint, you look at both of them. They look the same, but only if you know squint your eye and stare at it. But it's like when you're in school and you like etch stuff on your desk. It's like that. To me, that's what it looks like. Where you get like a coin or something or a pencil, you do some etching or something. I don't know. I never did that in school, but I know people have, because there was etchings all over my desk at school.
Yeah, I've totally never done that either. Who would do such a thing?
Oh, very uncivilized.
So uncivilized. Those are no, that's the end of the prequel memeing for the show, I promise. So yeah, it, I'm with you. I wasn't sold. It's like I don't wear glasses, but if I put really strong glasses on, then maybe I'd see it better. Because it would like blur the image. I don't know. That was a bad joke. But this new theory is that now this credit to Scalzi for bringing this to my attention. Um, there is a nebula called the Horsehead Nebula, and it's the same kind of deal where it's not exact, and you kind of have to squint a little, but you can definitely see some correlation there. And the thing about this is that the nebula is a three-dimensional object, so it's going to look different from different angles. I don't know. Looking at them side by side right now, there's that little bit at the bottom right on the etching in the trailer that just isn't there in the nebula, so I'm not sold on this either. I have no idea, frankly.
It could be just one of those things where overlooking, like a developer just was having a bit of fun, doodling on the textures.
Yeah, for real. And to lend a bit more credence to the Test 6 thing, just because it doesn't look exactly like the maps we have now, doesn't mean that won't be the map in the game, right? Like, if you take Oblivion's map and match it up to Cyrodiil, it's not going to be exact. Same with Skyrim. and I think Vardenfell as well in Morrowind. Um, their games, this makes zero sense to me, but there's a like canonical size of Tamriel, which is like the size of Europe about, if I'm remembering right. Is that true?
I'm not sure exact size, but I know it's quite large. Like if they did a real size, you'd never be able to walk across Skyrim. It'd be like Daggerfall again, where you're like walking for days IRL, unless you fast travel. Like they really have to scale back the size of the maps. Not even sure Creation Engine would handle a map that large, but
So if every map has to be condensed significantly, then it's going to lose its shape a little bit. I don't know if it will lose its shape to this degree, but I don't know. There's a lot of water here and a really tiny like stretch of land in a couple places. I think it would be a really weird map for a BGS game, unless they put more emphasis on water, which I would not be mad about. I mean, I think if you're doing ships in Starfield, it would be not very hard to put like ocean ships in Test 6, I'd imagine.
oh yeah, like if they do manage to do two provinces, then I think just have your own ship like Black Flag kind of thing in the Iliac Bay. Just have some ship shenanigans and cause chaos. Get a high bounty on you because you're destroying traveling merchants for their copper or whatever resource you need.
That would be cool. Yeah, that would be awesome. Like in have you played Sea of Thieves?
It's on my to-do list since I've got my Xbox now, but I haven't.
Okay. Which Xbox do you have?
I have the Series X.
Oh, nice. How'd you manage that?
Staying up late, staying up very late, and then waiting for shipments. It was a complete accident. I was like, oh hell yeah, Xbox shipments. It's the longest stock I've seen. It lasted about 18 hours, so I was quite lucky, and I was one of the first to order it.
Wow. Nice job. I'm still trying to get one. The Series S is like readily available, but the X is what I want because I want the Starfield Collector's Edition, and
Oh yeah,
I just
yeah.
can't get it.
Like if they do a Starfield Xbox, I'm definitely want to pre-order one. Like even if it's one of the even if it ends up being faulty unit, because I think that's the biggest fear of buying a console day one is you get one of the faulty units. But I mean, it looks so cool to look at. Like you got like Starfield art on it or something, or even just the logo and like stars and stuff. Like that'd just be so cool to have just the Starfield Xbox.
That is one of the things keeping me sane in my failing quest to get a Series X is the fact that I can just hold out and get a Starfield console because I think they would probably do one, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
there
yeah,
hasn't.
definitely.
On the other hand, there hasn't been a Halo one announced, which is concerning. Unless I've missed it, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think there's a Halo one yet. I'm sure we might see one potentially. I think they'll probably most definitely do one if Halo Infinite sells more than so many copies.
That's an interesting point to bring up, the selling of copies, because with them leaning so heavily into Game Pass, I wonder how that stat, like how much they'll look at it. You know what I mean? Because Game Pass is up to what? It's like I hope I'm not pulling this number out my rear end. It's like 12 or 14 million. It's something insane, their number of subscribers. So that's millions of people that aren't going to be buying Halo Infinite. I'm sure some will just to like support the franchise or whatever. But I mean, yeah, that's that's going to cut into sales a lot. So kind of an interesting thing to think about in the future because sales have always been such an important figure, obviously, because that's how you make money.
Yeah, I think Starfield's gonna benefit from being on Game Pass because for all we know, it's gonna be a flop, like a dud. I don't think that's gonna happen
Oh
at
God.
all, but we don't know at this point. But I'm always optimistic because I think it's gonna be great, and we're gonna have a lot of fun, a lot of hours. Todd, please sponsor us.
Yeah, with all the news of Bethesda games being Game Pass day one, which is enormous. Like, again, how that ties into sales. Like, how can Microsoft, I guess $7 billion is a lot of money, but to forfeit all those sales because people are going to be playing your game on Game Pass, I just like can't fathom how any anybody more than an indie studio can make money on Game Pass. I just don't see how. But they're finding a way, I think. And kind of going off on a tangent here, but I think we can also look at the film industry to see where this is kind of going. Netflix and other streaming platforms are making box office sales a lot less important. That used to be a big deal, like being number one at the box office. Now it's how many plays are you getting on on Netflix or whatever. And that's partially onset by COVID, I think. But I think it's going to be a permanent thing where box office numbers aren't going to matter as much because you're getting most of your money through all these views on streaming platforms.
Yeah, it's Well, speaking of streaming platforms, Netflix announced they're moving into gaming.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, COVID has affected the box office. Although Black Widow came back strong and made a lot of money at the well, a lot for a COVID era box office. Made a lot in the first week, then it just kind of dropped because everyone could just watch it on Disney Plus. Granted, you have to pay like $30 or £20, but which I did, by the way.
Did you really?
Yeah,
I was about to say how much that drives me crazy, but
yeah, I've overpaid for the film and I've watched it like 4 times.
if you like the film, then
I like it,
good
but
for
one
you.
or two elements, and I'm like, okay. I
What are
much
the
more enjoyed the shows than the film.
Sorry, what movie was it?
Black Widow.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen the movie or the shows.
You should. WandaVision's good. Falcon and the Winter Soldier's good. Loki's really good. Black Widow is a movie. Well, it's I like it, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite.
Mm. Your favorite like movie in general?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the person that just watches Marvel movies, more or less.
Mm. On the topic of film, we do have that Fallout TV show coming, which was announced and then like no one talks about it anymore. Like dropped off the face of the earth, but I assume it's still being worked on.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like you'd think Microsoft would have cancelled it, or at least publicly said they'd cancelled it if it was cancelled. But I don't know. I feel like Microsoft, like their like film division, which is not like it's not one of the big film divisions. Like Sony owns Columbia Pictures, so which is their film studio. But Microsoft, they've done like direct to DVD films. Like they did a Halo 5 tie-in about the secondary protagonist to that game. They did like a prequel story to him.
Interesting.
But I'm just thinking because I feel like Microsoft Studios will want to get involved with that since, because I don't like what can they do with Fallout in like a that kind of serious kind of format.
Do we know what streaming platform it'll be on? Like, was it Hulu?
It's it was Amazon, so it'll be on Prime.
Oh, okay. Well, I think the most important thing will be having writers and a cast that have played Fallout and understand the humor, the lore to a lesser extent. I think The Witcher was done right. That was one of the best game to film adaptations I've seen. And a huge part of that was that Henry Cavill knew the Witcher games well and was a fan. So he knew how to bring Geralt the, I guess in this case it was the small screen. So hopefully they can replicate that with Fallout. Now, a Starfield companion movie coming out at the same time. How about that? I don't know about you, but I'd hate it.
Oh my god. If they did, well, I think I said it last month. It's kind of weird that they brought up a Starfield movie or show in the interview with the Washington Post. It's like there's no mobile game tie-in, but we're not gonna say no to a movie tie-in or serious. And it's like it's a very odd thing to say. Like in the context that they could have said instead of saying that, they could have just said, "Oh, we have no current plans for a, mobile app for Starfield." Just left it at that. So I'm wondering if they do have some form of serious and very early talks, but nothing to write home about.
I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with doing a game to film adaptation, but I think they need to do, I think it should probably be until after Starfield 2 comes out, or whatever they'll call it, that they should, that then maybe they can start thinking about doing a film because you need to give the franchise time to like establish itself, let it find its tone, its identity, which they're putting a ton of effort into right now. But I think the fans also assist in that by they will latch onto the things that they like, and then Bethesda in a sequel in expansions responds to that. So if you take Fallout 4 is a great example. Fallout 4 comes out, and this is more game system than tone and lore, but people didn't like that the RPG elements were streamlined. They didn't think there was a deep enough dialogue choice. So Far Harbor comes out and it gives you a ton of choice. It was a direct response to the community feedback. So I think if you're going to do a Starfield film or TV adaptation, it needs to be after the game has had a lot of time to digest with people. And then you know what they're going to like. Because if you're just guessing, it's not going to be good.
I think if they were to do a series, I think if they did like a side story or something in another galaxy to where we're set and give more lore on some of the companies and maybe have like a timepiece like the foundation of Constellation or something.
No, that would be an idea I could get on board with. Doing kind of a like a lore exploration thing that's kind of far enough away from the game that it can have those differences in tone and stuff and style that you can kind of brush it off as like, okay, that was just, things were different at that time as opposed to when the game takes place. So I could definitely see that. That would be cool.
My biggest worry with the Amazon Fallout show is budget. If this ends up being, a $20 million production, that's a lot of money. But when you're doing stuff like mutants, super mutants and ghouls, well, ghouls you can do practical effects, I suppose. But stuff like super mutants, if it doesn't have the right budget, it's going to look very off. Like if you've seen the DC CW shows, you know they're low budget for television because we're in the age now where shows on streaming, which is the future. They've they've got the movie budgets now, but I don't know if Microsoft will put that money forward. It's hard to say definitively, because they might not ever reveal the budget, but I think you can tell by the effects what the budget roughly is. Because either it looks good and it's great, but even if it doesn't look great, they can still make up for it in the writing.
That's an interesting point you brought up on Microsoft's role in kind of dishing out money, because I'm trying to remember when the show was announced in relation to the acquisition. Like, was the show, did we already know about the show when we heard that Microsoft was buying them? I guess that would be easy to look up. Yeah, it definitely was before the acquisition. It was announced in July last year.
Okay.
So that said, I wonder, I would be really interested to know what Microsoft's role is in that show. Now that, will they get a cut of the profits? Because the show was already in some form of production when they bought Bethesda. But on the flip side, Starfield was in production when they bought Bethesda as well. And they're going to be taking a cut of the profit from that. So I'm inclined to think that yes. I just don't know if licensing deals with TV work differently.
Well, I can only give Marvel as an example. So, Sony owns Spider-Man as long as they make films of that IP. But if they stop using it and they don't have anything in production for more than 5 years, then the rights revert back to Marvel automatically, and it costs them nothing. But then Sony lose rights, but they do get to keep distribution rights that they had in that time. So I think EA is still allowed to make Star Wars games, and they still are. But now Ubisoft is too. So they kind of have to share the IP, as far as I'm aware.
I don't want to get off too off topic, but I'm so excited for that Ubisoft Star Wars game. That's gonna be amazing. I've dreamt of that for years. That's gonna be great. But do you know if like the Miles Morales game and the Spider-Man PS4 game, do those count as Spider-Man things, or does it have to be a movie?
Well, the game rights where it gets confusing. So Activision held them for many years, since the 90s. Marvel was trying to make profits, so Activision was making all these Spider-Man games like B-level, and then they got worse and worse and worse. And then eventually that deal dried up, and this was under Disney by now, because Disney had bought Marvel. And then Disney was going through who to license, and then Sony was asking around their studios, we've just got rights to all of these IPs. To Insomniac, they were like, you get to choose which one you want to do. And they, of course, chose Spider-Man, so Sony licensed the Spider-Man game rights from Disney, which technically now they own everything Spider-Man, but only, it's not a permanent thing. It's, you make the product, you get to keep the license, but if you stop making the product, we take the license. Because I believe Activision lost the Marvel rights when that Deadpool game came out, and then it got pulled for a while, and it came back as a remaster as well as the original, and that was all to do with licensing, I think. But I don't know the exact timeline of when Sony went around asking Insomniac what IP they wanted to use. But until that point, Activision held the rights until that deal ended.
Okay. That sounds very complicated.
And it's very messy legal stuff.
So, oh man. Okay. So I'll probably never understand the ins and outs of the Microsoft Fallout TV show thing, because I could barely wrap my head around that. But basically, so if they were to do something similar with Fallout, they would need to be like, they would need to keep making seasons, or else Amazon would lose the rights, right? So like if Amazon went so long without producing the Fallout show, then they wouldn't be able to anymore. I'm not saying that's what it is, but if they were to do a similar deal.
Yeah, I believe so. So Universal used to work with id Software, and they acquired the Doom rights, which is how we got the Doom movie. But then, because that might have been a 10-year deal, and then id Software got bought by by ZeniMax, and John Carmack left. All these veterans left that wanted to do movies and stuff. And then Universal was about to lose the rights, and they were like, well, let's just put a movie in development. And that's how we got Doom Annihilation. Low budget, it was distributed by their indie studio under Universal. And it's awful. It's software even acknowledged on Twitter. They were like, we had nothing to do with this film, which shows how bad it was going to be. But
Wow.
Universal made that to keep the rights. And it's like, and another example is, do you remember the 2015 Fantastic Four film?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fox made that just to keep the rights because they didn't want Marvel getting them.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that film is awful. Well, I know there's some people that do like the film, but it's just they changed so much. They got a upcoming director to film that, and it was just complete chaos. The filming of that film.
The Fantastic Four out of 10.
Definitely like a 3.5. It's not even a 4. Like it's on Disney Plus now, and I watched it and I was like, oh my god, well, what is this? I'm just very happy Marvel's making their own Fantastic Four now, because Fox lost in the end. Not that I'm agreeing with corporate takeover or anything. Just Fox was very hit or miss with their Marvel IPs.
Yeah, I got you. So I'll be excited to see what they can cook up there with the Fallout show. I think we'll move on to the next thing. This was just 2 or 3 days ago, on July 20th. Bethesda, out of the blue, put up this Twitter thread for Space Exploration Day, which I thought was an odd holiday because Space Exploration Day, you're supposed to celebrate by exploring space, right? Well, there are a whopping 5 people who are capable of doing that right now. So I couldn't really celebrate Space Exploration Day, but I wish I could. We'll be able to explore space with Starfield, so that'll be how I celebrate Space Exploration Day. But anyway, this Twitter thread, it was a series of images, and each one focuses on a team member at Bethesda, and they are sharing what inspires them about space. And it starts off with a picture of a young Todd Howard, which, by the way, Todd Howard was a very cute kid. He was like 6, 7, 8. He was at Cape Canaveral, and he was in one of those cutout things where you look like an astronaut. I'm sure most of the people listening have seen it already, but oh man, he was a cute kid. I don't think that's weird to say
Oh,
because it's true.
I wouldn't say it's weird. Is Photos the only one without a quote, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Todd did that on purpose. Like he knows. I think another one was Emil, right? I think that's how you said his name.
Yeah. I have it right here. I can just read it. So Emil Pagliarulo, design director. He used to be lead writer, I believe. Now he's design director. Uh, he says, when I was a kid, and this was shortly after I saw Star Wars in theater, so I was 7 or 8, my mother got me this amazing illustrated book about spaceships. This book ignited something in my mind. I read it cover to cover and memorized the illustrations. As I grew older, I never forgot that book and what it meant to me. But what I did forget was the title and who wrote and illustrated it, until we started pre-production on Starfield. One of our concept artists had a book on his desk, and it looked incredibly similar. Same art style, same ship designs. It wasn't the same book, but close enough that I was able to look up the creators and find the one that had meant so much to me as a kid. Nice little anecdote from Emil.
It's like there's songs from your childhood, and they're mostly forgotten, but they're in your head. You know some of the lyrics, and you just can't reverse searching what lyrics you know. It doesn't work.
Yes.
And then you keep piecing it back, and eventually you find it, but it's not on Spotify. It's on something obscure like Amazon Music or YouTube. And then when you find it, you just feel so good about yourself. Like when you find that song from your childhood, you feel great, and then you listen to it, and you're like, oh, it was okay. And then you stop listening to it, but it's on your back catalogue. You don't, like, you may find that song, but it may not be exactly what you remember. Or with an adult mind, you might criticise it a bit more. especially if it's a song like nobody's heard of. But then when you find the song, you just see comments explaining people explaining that how long it took for them to find this song. Well, not just me. If anyone's, there's something from your childhood you can't remember. When you find it, it's nice to see other people also looking for it. That you're not the only one that remembers that. That's a bit off topic because I'm talking about music, but it's kind of similar.
Yeah. No, there was when I was a real little kid, I had an MP3 player, and it came with some like pre-downloaded songs. And one of them was this 17-second song. I can remember the entire thing. It was about the number 100. It was for kids. And it goes, 100 is cool. It's really fun. It's a one sitting there with two zeros behind. When you have 100, you have a lot. 100 ones or 250s. That's hot. And that was the end of the song. And I've never heard it again since getting rid of that iPod or MP3 player. But anyway, that was very off topic. There's one of these space exploration uh, day accounts that is, I think, very telling, and it is from Jeff Brown, who is a lead level designer. And I think even his title, when you connect it with his quote, this is cool. So he says, whether it was seeing the moon through a telescope for the first time, a shuttle launch on TV, or an image from the Hubble telescope, there was a point in my early childhood where the realization of how truly small we are shook me to my core. It was an unsettling but exciting feeling. I would let my imagination run wild and pretend I landed my spaceship on a planet no one's ever been before. The wonder, excitement, and sense of danger I'd feel while exploring the surface. Then I'd get back on my ship and fly to the next planet and start the journey all over again. Yzra, is Jeff Brown talking about the gameplay loop of Starfield?
I maybe I'm kind of picturing like No Man's Sky. You take off, land, get resources, land, upgrade, then go further. But it could be because it's like if I got inside knowledge and then I'm not likely, but there's a chance that because I know that information, but then I forget that it's not public information, I might say something like that. It's all human error. If it is, providing it is. So he could just be giving a generic space kind of loop.
That's a good point. That's and yes, I also very much feel the No Man's Sky vibes in that. But yeah, it does seem, I mean, this is an official like Bethesda statement. Would they really like, I don't know, if he just dropped some deets about Starfield gameplay, would they really use that? I mean, maybe it's vague enough that that they still are. I can grab it. But I just thought that was a really interesting quote because that is exactly how we're imagining Starfield, I think most of us. Um, Andrew Scharf, a senior producer, also says, I find myself transported back to the times when I was a kid, flipping pages in my books on the solar system, learning about planets and their scale compared to Earth. I remember how blown away I was, thinking about how small we are in comparison to what's out there. And it's great to be able to tap into that feeling of discovery again. I feel like this. Make me feel small, Starfield, please. So that was really cool. There were a few other ones, but those were the ones that I thought kind of you can relate to Starfield and we can actually get some info, but I highly recommend reading all of them. The last bit of news we have for this month is from last weekend. Um, it was confirmed that Bethesda will be at Gamescom this year. Now, Gamescom will be all digital, and they've listed all the participating developers, publishers, etc. Xbox and Bethesda were listed separately, which I thought was odd. I looked at the other participants to see if maybe there was a Sony studio that was there. It was listed like separately from Sony or something like that. Sony's not listed, and I didn't see any other PlayStation studios. So it's so weird, this like early period of the acquisition where like they are part of Xbox, but they're also not. But regardless, do you have any ideas, theories about what we might see at Gamescom. It's next month, August 25th to 27th.
I think in a way it's kind of good that it's separate because they don't have to cram it into a showcase. Because I don't know how E3 actually works, but I think they have a time slot and then they have to cram everything into that time slot. But having them separate, which means they have more time each, probably, for about the same price. Like I don't know how much a booth even costs. It's probably expensive. But then you've got to like book times, and then it's like I'd say it's a good thing that they're being separate. But I think there could still be crossover like there was usually at E3. You'd see.
I agree with that. And then hard number. What percentage do you think? Like, what chance do we have of seeing Starfield there?
Maybe 10, 15% chance. It's hard to say because the game is still 17 months away. It's a long time, but at the same time, it's a new IP. They wanna sell this, and because a lot of people contention says, "Oh, I'm gonna wait for Elder Scrolls 6," but I think there's still a chance we could see something. But I think even if we do, it's more likely that it's just gonna be the same what we've heard before, but repeated and said in a different way.
Yeah, just sort of reminding people that it exists, sort of thing.
I think we have a better chance of seeing something like Redfall because that game got that was like the underdog of everything. That has the least views out of all of or everything else that was shown.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, the underdog. And it looked great too. Open world for the first time. I think that's Arcane's first time doing open world game, and at least in like the modern era, last generation or two.
It's got a very interesting premise, like science vampires, and it's like open world Left 4 Dead, which Valve apparently did want to do once, but the Source engine couldn't do what they wanted.
Never played any Valve games. Probably should.
I've played Half-Life 2, not the episodes, and I've played both Portal games a lot because those games can run on like Intel integrated graphics of 60 frames on low settings. It's great. I can play Half-Life 2 on my current PC at a constant 144 FPS on max settings, so it's pretty awesome
That's
how well
insane.
optimized they are. Although it's a game from 2004, so I don't know what I was expecting. So Starfield in 30 years, and we're on Starfield 4 or 3,
Starfield 4, yeah.
and you go back and then you can play the game at like 200 FPS.
Yeah. Bethesda games tend to not age great, but as they start to build them for longevity and stuff, I'm hoping Starfield reverses that trend.
People are still memeing the engine,
Of course, yeah.
but it's an engine they can really work with, and modders like and know how to use. So if you have something like Unreal, how do you make a mod kit for that? Because there's engine license and stuff like that, but with the creation engine, just tweak the engine, make a kit, and then there's no licensing, just make mods. It's a healthy system. Like sometimes the engine might run a bit off, but at least it's customizable to individual preferences.
Mm. I will give my prediction for what we'll see at Gamescom. I don't think we'll get like a new trailer or anything like that. I think we will get the second installment of the Into the Starfield devlog.
Oh yeah, definitely if we see it.
And I think what's Gamescom? Yeah, the 25th to the 27th. We'll just say this live on the show. I think if you're fine with it, I think it'd be a good idea to delay episode 3 until after Gamescom so we have anything new there to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, Bethesda Gamescom. Looking forward to it. So that is all of our news from the last month. Pretty, like I said at the top, pretty healthy amount. And you said, I think, unless you have anything else you want to say, um, yeah. Do you have anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, cool. So, like last time, we like to end the show with a sci-fi recommendation while we wait for Starfield. Anything uh, sci-fi that we like, be it movie, game, TV, even music, we'll each do one. So I'll go first. That's cool. This month, I am recommending Dune by Frank Herbert, the book. Written in the 60s. It's about a guy named Paul Atreides, and he was basically born into royalty in this space government, and he finds out that he has these aren't spoilers. It's like chapter 1 and 2 stuff. Finds out he has some magical powers. So it's softer sci-fi than Starfield, but the this sounds weird, but art direction for a book. There are no illustrations, but the descriptions that Herbert gives, and then in the subsequent movies, it has developed its own visual style, and I think that visual style has inspired Starfield in some ways. Really cool, unique stuff, and it's an absolute legend in the sci-fi genre. Inspired a lot of stuff. This is all pre-Star Wars. I don't think it's pre-Star Trek. It might be. It came out mid-60s, Dune. So I'm not sure about that. But yeah, very important work in the history of sci-fi. So Dune by Frank Herbert. Definitely read it if you have never have.
While my favorite sci-fi film that isn't Marvel is it's a film called The Edge of Tomorrow, which is based off a Japanese novel, very very loosely. Stars Tom Cruise, you know, me man, right now in the Starfield community. It's interesting with aliens. It's set on Earth. It's not like space sci-fi. It's alien invasion, but it's science fiction. So it's my favorite non-Marvel movie. I definitely recommend it.
I love that you picked a Tom Cruise movie for this. That is brilliant.
It's it's my favorite. It's really ironic that my favorite non-Marvel movie is a Tom Cruise movie. Like I've never seen Top Gun. I've never seen Mission Impossible, but I watched The Edge of Tomorrow in 2014 when it came out in the UK.
Yeah, I'm just looking through Google Images. That looks really cool. Oh, that like shoulder-mounted gun Tom Cruise wears? That is awesome.
I really like the exosuits and like the alien design. It's like mimics and prey.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I see one now. It's grounded enough, those exosuits, that you can see the wires and the mechanical bits.
Yeah, like they actually had to be quite fit to wear them because they were really heavy. And when they had to do running scenes, they had support cranes to take some of the weight off.
Oh my gosh.
But they had fun on set, like who can get in their suit the fastest, and they got it down to like 3 minutes. Because it would take like 30 minutes or an hour to get in the suits. It's like a Groundhog Day film. Like things are repeating, and it's like the video game concept of respawning with the knowledge of what came before, so you can repeat the day and you can keep doing it until you get better and better. Kind of like Dark Souls in that way. The more you play it, the better you get.
Do you know where it's streamed?
You're in the US. It's Warner Brothers, so it'd probably be on HBO Max.
Okay.
Over here, sometimes it's on Netflix, or I don't think it's actually home anywhere. I have the movie on Blu-ray, so I just watch it through that. But if you're in the US, it should be on HBO Max.
Okay. Very cool. That's a good choice. So, Todd Howard did deconfirm the Tom Cruise stuff, but he will still be meme to eternity.
Because I looked into that joke tweet Bethesda did in like, is it years ago? I think it was Bethesda. They tweeted at Tom Cruise as a joke,
Yeah.
and he never responded. He never liked it. He never responded. When when they originally started bringing it up, that's when I looked into it, and I was like, he's not going to be in the game. He didn't like it. He didn't respond. He didn't have a joke with them.
Mm.
Just nothing. There it was like it's like me when I tweet the Elder Scrolls Online Twitter account and they don't respond or like my post, and I feel sad. I'm like, I'm a nobody. And I'll be
I've
like,
been playing
I'll be a somebody somewhere. And then I'll go, who's laughing now?
I've been playing a ridiculous amount of ESO the last couple of weeks. That's a fun game.
I played it on console, but now I'm on the PC, and I hope one day we get some form of crossplay. It's probably not going to happen with the way they structure everything, but it'd be nice. Make the servers more crowded too, but
Yeah, for sure. It does feel empty at times.
like I remember and I don't know how true it is today, but when I played on Xbox, the EU server died fast. The populace is on NA from what I remember. Because there'd be times where I'd be in a public dungeon, I'd be waiting for someone, and like one guy comes, and we both can't take down the enemy because we don't have damage dealing rolls.
Mm.
So I used to struggle, especially when the game was really grindy because veteran ranks. I got to 3 and about halfway through and I just gave up because it took forever. Although now that's the champion system, so I don't know how high that is.
Yeah, I think my level's in the 30s, so I'm excited to get to those champion ranks.
They've recently increased them. There's like 3,500 now.
That's crazy.
So there's a lot of grinding. It does get easier the more you play, but then you have to even reach 3,000. You need a group. You need to do your daily crafting things, all that. You have to log in every day, and it's the reason why I'm still burnt out after like a year and a half. It's because it's so much to do. I love the
Mm.
game, and I'll play it for any Dwemer they give me. Please give me more Dwemer. Um, but other than that, I don't know if I can do logging in daily. Even with 76, I'm burned out on that. Just logging in every day because I did. It's weird with Skyrim. I haven't seen everything, but with Fallout 4 and 76, I've seen everything. I sweated Fallout 4 very hard when it came out because of the hype,
Mm.
and I got all the achievements, even that annoying settlement one. And then the DLC came out, and I was just on a burnout, so I never 100%ed the achievements with the DLCs. Which I could do, but then I can't have mods on while I do that. And also the 30 FPS hurts my head.
Mm.
I think it's because in Fallout 4 it's a bit inconsistent, and there's no Series X optimization yet. There's FPS boost, but for Fallout 4 that will limit you to 1080p, which I play in the 4K mode, so it won't look very good. We uh we owe a community member a copy of Starfield when pre-orders go up.
Yes, we do. So I'll be buying. I will also be buying at least 2 copies. I'm still in contact with that person. For those that don't know, we did a giveaway on the subreddit. So since we can't pre-order the game yet, it was more of like a giveaway of an IOU. So we pretty much just gave away our word that like you will have a copy of Starfield when we can get one. So I'm still in contact with that user and they understand and everything. But yeah, we did the Starfield giveaway, so follow the Lorefield stuff because who knows? Who knows
Yeah.
what's coming in the future?
Yes. Who knows where we'll expand and talk with.
Giveaway. But I actually unfortunately have to go. But
Yes.
very solid second episode.
That's all we have time for today, folks.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening. And we'll be back next month, probably a little bit later in the month because of that Gamescom stuff. But it should be an exciting one. So yeah, thanks again. And follow our social channels at Lorefield Network, Lorefield Network on YouTube, and the Lorefield subreddit. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.